Welcome everyone to Catfish Weekly. Along with Chuck Jamison, I'm Lyle Stokes. Tonight we have the great privilege of having John Jamison on the show with us, and we'll get to that in just a second. I know y'all are dying to ask John some questions. There's a couple things that we want to talk about first. Cindy and I fished a tournament in Alton 2 weeks ago, and we had a really good time down there. We met a couple down there, Nikki and her husband, Nikki Norquist. These folks was just so infatuated and such good people that we stood outside the motel and visited with them about catfishing and boats and different things. And I just want to let everybody know that this is how things get started with bringing new people into the sport. These was some outstanding people. They had just got reacquainted, got together, and I think they're planning on getting married. And I was just really happy. They was awesome folks, and I just wanted to bring that up. And at the same venue, when we pulled into this motel, there was a couple and another guy sitting on the bench out front waiting on a taxi to come get them. And they look familiar, but of course everybody looks familiar. You see so many people, and these folks happened to be members. In fact, one of them, the lady, was the secretary for the Clarksville Boat Club, which we are members of, and they had boated from Clarksville to Alton and was spending the night or two and going to have some fun, and that's just how the fishing thing goes. So whenever you can visit with someone about catfishing and make the sport better, it's just an awesome thing. John, we're so glad to have you on the show tonight. It's just great that you take your time out and spend it with us. And I want to thank you before we get started for spending your time with Catfish Weekly.
Well, Carl, I appreciate the opportunity to be on here, and it's always my pleasure to be able to visit with you and to talk about catfishing.
Well, that's great. Chuck, I know that you have some stuff that you want to visit with John about, and I'm going to let you guys take off. And when you're done, I have a few things to visit with him about. You folks that's in chat, if you have any questions for John, anything we need to visit with him about, feel free to let us all in, and we'll pass this word along. John is on the phone. He does not have a video cam or internet connection that will let him be live with us on video, so we're doing it all over a phone. So send those questions in and we'll get them to him just as quick as we can. Okay, Chuck.
How you doing, John? Glad to have you on.
How about yourself?
Great, man. I can't wait for this fall bite to come on. This is my favorite time of the year, and I'm getting wound up.
I understand that. So am I.
Oh, well, John, we haven't had on, too many tournament anglers that have been through all the experience and all the years that you've put in. And here in Alabama, around in 2007, 2008, we started going through a lot of changes here and enforcing a 34-inch rule where only one person could keep a catfish over 34 inches per day, and no transporting fish over 34 inches across state lines. But when that came into effect, that also started affecting the tournaments. Could you give us some examples of some tournaments that you did fish in Alabama back when we had the old regulations with with no limits compared to the regulations we have now, and the differences you see, and how you like it?
Sure. Well, first of all, I'm a proponent of any catfish regulation that we can get in. I've stood behind, I work a lot with the Missouri Department of Conservation, and actually a lot with some of the other states too. I want to make sure that our catfish are protected the way they should be. So we'll throw that out there first. But to give you an example, back in 2003, we would fish in the Cabela's National Championship down in Sheffield, Alabama. We finished second in the nation there, and in 2 days we weighed in 14 fish. It was 7 fish weigh in. We weighed in 495 lead weighing in 503. Went through multiple fish that was in the 30s. And when I say multiple, I'm talking during the course of 2 days, we probably went through, we caught and released somewhere around 30 fish that was in the 30-pound range. A lot of fish. A lot of fun, and I really like being able to weigh in that way. When you can keep your 5 biggest fish or 7 biggest fish, which is what it was back then, that really truly showed you who the best anglers on the water was. The problem with our regulation now is, it's not always the best angler wins that tournament because they may catch, you got to have a little bit of luck going along with them. You can't keep fish over 34. You may have, or you can't keep multiple fish over 34. Now, you may have, a team that caught a whole bunch of fish over 34 inches, and they had to release a bunch of them. And to me, that's unfair for the tournament angler. But I stand behind the regulation 100% because they're trying to protect the fishery. And I think that's a good thing. My opinion, and of course everybody has an opinion, my opinion is that in the tournaments, the regulations should vary somewhat like they do in, in the bass world. The bass world will change the regulation for the tournament participants sometimes. So my opinion is I wish the state of Alabama, Mississippi, and those that have the regulations would allow us to weigh in our 5 best fish during the tournament because it is all catch and release. Most of the anglers now have live wells large enough to handle the fish. Number one. Number two, a lot of people run oxygen on board so that you keep these fish alive and healthy. And that allows the tournament angler to bring in 5 big fish to scale to show who can really catch multiple big fish. But again, I am behind regulation all the time. I work with multiple, several different states on trying to help get regulation in place that will benefit the sport. Because I've been behind this sport for a lot of years. I've always been a proponent of catch and release. Don't get me wrong. I like to eat fish. And our boat rules since about the 1980s that fish that are over 10 pounds is an automatic release. And I don't hold it against somebody thinking big fish to eat because that's part of the beauty of catfishing. People who catch fish to eat, that's what's gone. That's what people have done for years and years. They do it in moderation. But I'd like to see the regulations to support that. So I'm trying to ramble on and on with your question there. But that's kind of my opinion on it.
Chuck?
So if Alabama said, okay, we're going to work with y'all tournament anglers, and instead of bringing in 2 over 34 and 3 under, we're going to let you bring in your 3 biggest fish. Would you think that would be better for tournaments than the 2 over and 3 under?
I personally do because that allows you to bring in your 3 biggest fish to scale. And you don't have to rely on that, call it a one factor to catch your fish that's under 34. Give me an example. I think in another tournament down there, which we got our 2 over, which can be pretty easy sometimes. And every fish we caught after that was 34 and a quarter, 34 and a half. Just could not get, that fish right under 34. So there is a certain amount of luck involved. And personally, yes, I would like to see 3 over instead of doing it the way it's currently done.
Awesome. That is great. Okay, so you're from out there around the Great Missouri River, which is on my bucket list. I would love to get out there and fish that river. Do you prefer fishing the Missouri River other than the larger lakes in your area?
Absolutely. I'm a current fisherman, and I primarily fish the Missouri River. I grew up fishing lakes. We fished rivers. We fished everything. And we still fish
Yeah, excellent. Yeah, I've watched some of your shows on the Sportsman's Channel and so what, to where you was out in the lakes doing a little bit of drifting and stuff. I've never got to see a televised show with you on the Missouri River, which I would love to see. Um, so when you're out on the Missouri River, um, did you start doing a lot of walking baits and stuff like that at an early age, or is that something that you just came to start doing in the past 10 years or so? Was it used to be like mostly all anchoring and stuff, and then you just moved into walking baits and stuff here recently?
No, actually, what happened, going back into my childhood and my tournament partners' childhood, I've known my tournament partner, Mark Thompson, for, I don't know, 35, 40 years, about 40 years. Fished a lot with his dad. When we were kids, and I think with Mark's dad, and my dad always took me, we grew up fishing a lot of small rivers. One of the rivers is called the American River, which is close to my home now, and which turns into the Osage once it gets over into the state of Missouri. But we would go to American, we fished Kansas River a lot, or the call, if you will, and we waded a lot in the small river, catch our bait, and we actually would stand out in the ripples and we would walk bait. I've been walking bait since I was probably 7 or 8 years old. So was my tournament partner, Mark. So we've always done that from wading in the small rivers or like on the call or the Kansas River. We've done it from that anchored position and we'd walk bait. Now starting in about, but we've never done what we now refer to as a controlled drift until about 1998, pushing 20 years now. And we have had a big curve on that, changed a lot of stuff. But what we currently do now, we call it controlled drift, and that's on the big rivers like the Missouri River, the Mississippi, or the Ohio, where we drop the trolling motor, slow the boat speed down to about half the current speed, and we walk the bait behind the boat, which is basically the same thing that we were doing back in 1975 in the small rivers, but we was walking, we was out wading and doing that kind of stuff. We didn't have the boat to control it. But kind of get back to your question, I've been walking bait most of my life, and it is an extremely effective way to catch big fish and just all kinds of fish, and that is exactly or mainly the reason I like to fish the big rivers with a lot of current, because we can move bait.
Okay, we got a question from John Nordyke. He said, John, if we were going to get an exemption for tournaments, would you consider having some kind of minimum standard for the equipment in a boat to keep the fish healthy?
Can you repeat that one more time? Kind of broke on me a little bit. I think I got it. Please repeat it.
If you were able to get an exemption for tournaments, if we were all over the country and we were able to get the states to allow us to bring in more big fish, what kind of minimum standard would you recommend on the equipment that to keep the fish healthy?
I lost you right there at the end, but I think the question was, what kind of equipment would you recommend to have on board for tournament fishermen to keep their fish lively? Is that correct?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. I've gone through a lot of different systems in my boat, and I've seen a lot of different things that's on the market, oxygenators and all that kind of stuff. But the number one thing to put in your boat, and we get a comment on this almost every time that we weigh in fish. My guys, you guys can hardly ever hold on to your fish because our fish have been taken very well care of. It's as simple as carrying onboard oxygen on that boat, and we are running our water, so we're changing our water all the time in that tank. Put that oxygen to that fish, it will revive a badly hooked fish. A lot of times it rejuvenates your fish as soon as they get in the boat after you've caught them and caught them. My recommendation, if I had my way, every boat fishing tournament would have some sort of oxygen on board to take care of your fish, because you would be amazed at what it does to the fish.
But what about the size of the live well? What kind of gallon live well, and would you require continuous water exchange capability in the live well?
Yeah, definitely you've got to be able to change the water in the live well, where you have ammonia build up in there on your fish. That's number one. But number two, live well size. I've been all over the place on different live well sizes. Currently, I'm running about a 70-gallon live well, which sounds small to a lot of people, but I've designed boats that had 125-gallon live wells. And when I went to using oxygen on board all the time, really all you have to do is have enough water, get over the field with the fish, and then you turn your oxygen on. They can be packed in that live well, side by side by side, as long as you're putting the oxygen on. 100-pound fish is 50 inches long, side by side. So the first thing a live well's got to be long enough to hold a 5-foot fish. But if you can cram 250 pounds of fish in there, and as long as you've got water over their gill, and you're exchanging that water in that live well, and you're putting oxygen on, they're absolutely fine. And that will limit you. You don't have to run 125 gallons of water in your boat, because if you run all that water in your boat, it makes your boat hard to get on plane. It makes it a little dangerous when you're in rough water. It makes it hard on your boat trailer if you're some of these tournaments allow you to trailer very hard on your axles and stuff. So in my opinion, what I found out over the years, you don't need that huge live well to pain in the neck. When you can get away with a 70, 80-gallon tank, you put oxygen in fish.
That's great information there, John. Yeah, you had brought up the trailering and the especially long runs back to weigh in. I know in my boat with the pickup in the back of the boat, when I'm up on plane, I am not supplying my live well with fresh water, and so the oxygen would make a big difference also, and the trailering, like you said. But if we did have exemptions for the bigger fish, and the tournament directors were responsible for making sure that the anglers that registered and participated in these tournaments met the requirements of the requirements for these live wells and stuff. Do you think that would be the biggest factor in these states, letting us go ahead and start getting these exemptions to where we could raise these limits?
Yeah, I do. I mean, that way you can show that we can take care of the fish adequately, because that's what it's all about. I mean, it's fishing the big fish, and in my opinion, most of the tournament anglers, they want to bring that fish to scale in the best possible shape that they can bring it to scale. And so if you're running your oxygen on there all the time, and like my boat, I'm sponsored by Lon, and one of Lon's biggest thing on their live well, in my opinion, they have the best live well system out of all boats. But one of the things they have in their boat, we have a freshwater pickup. So when we're running down the river 40, 50 miles an hour, it will, I've got a valve in there, I can turn it on, and it will, if the boat's moving, it will bring water right into your live well. It just is the same way that it again, you need a freshwater pickup that's going to recirculate water into that boat as that boat's moving. Because if you're making a long run, most boats don't recirculate water. But there is a way to do it, and it works very well.
Yeah, I'd like to read up more on that. Yes, and for catfishing to really get a big crowd participations and for everybody to weigh in at the same time, I think it would be very important for to get everybody with the right equipment to keep these fish a full 8 or 9 hours, because I've been to lots of tournaments to where guys have had to bring their fish in after the tournament's only been on 4 or 5 hours, and they've weighed 80 and 90-pound fish early, and nobody's even been there to see these these big great fish being caught. And that's what it's all about, is the crowd being there to be able to see all this.
Yep, I agree with that 100%. And because that's one thing that will help this sport grow is just audience participation, people coming to watch, because they come to watch what they come for is to see that big fish. They want to see that big fish, and if you caught a fish, you had to bring in way early. A lot of the participants or the crowd or the audience, if you will, they're not going to get to see that big fish. He may be kept there in the tank, but it's always exciting for the audience to see that fish come out at live well, be held up right there. And I think that's a big deal. So again, to help that, and again, in my opinion, the answer is an oxygen. You don't need to put a lot of oxygen to these fish. You just crack that valve open a little bit. It will keep in fish like you wouldn't believe. The downside to it, there is a downside to everything, I guess. But the downside to it is when we come in, our fish will be so energetic and energized from us. They're very difficult to hang on. So I would hang on to. I highly recommend, if you're running oxygen, you can spend the money to buy a boulder grip so you can hold on to that fish so you're not dropping it. Because they're very difficult to hang on to. But oxygen will allow that fish to make it all the way through that tournament, unless he's just really badly hooked. I mean, there's some fish that just don't want to bleed out no matter what you do, and you're going to have to take him in as way you can. But oxygen will help that to a certain extent.
Okay. Yeah, I've got one more about tournaments, and then I'll pass it over to Lyle. I've heard a lot of people that's been catfishing for many years say that the catfish directors and promoters, they're copying bass fishing too much now, and they're getting away from what catfishing was really meant. And I really don't understand a lot what they're talking about. I think they're talking about the copying the exact same tournament hours, and trying to mimic and do a lot of the same thing that the bass guys are doing. What would you see the bass tournaments going back to or doing differently that would really set catfishing tournaments apart, from the...
You broke up, Chuck. Chuck?
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, I got you again. Try it again.
Okay. Bass fishing, people's been saying that the catfishing directors and stuff have been mimicking bass fishing a lot, and that a ways back, when catfishing tournaments back in the early 2000s, when they were really going really good and getting a lot of participation, that the hours were a lot different. And I wasn't around too much at that time, and I really don't know what they're talking about. But do you see anything different from the way the tournaments are being ran now, and from the way that you've seen them run before, and any changes that you would make now to tournaments that would make the tournaments better and participation and with participants and the crowd and everything coming out and watching?
Sure. I understand the question to a certain extent. And to give you a little history, I've been fishing tournaments since about 1991, around 1990 roughly. First of all, there's been a lot of changes in tournaments over the years. But my opinion, if the tournament director mimic the Bass World, BASS or whatever, to me there's nothing wrong with that. Just for the fact that, why fix something that's not broken, number one. Number two, I think maybe what some of the complaints are about a little bit, especially in the central part of the United States, Missouri, Kansas, Nebraska, up in here, a lot of the anglers want to fish at nighttime. They do not necessarily like the daytime tournament. So I understand that. And it's kind of a double-edged sword. When you have a tournament, you have to cater to the participants, all the tournament anglers. But you also got to keep in mind about your audience, because in order to drive this sport, make the sport bigger, we have to have outside participation. And the way you do that is draw a big crowd, get the crowd excited, and they kind of back, and they start promoting catfishing or buying catfish products. So that being said, if you're a tournament director, and this is probably where people saying is mimicking the Bass World, your tournament director, you really want to promote the sport, you've got to have a certain amount of daytime tournaments so you can have it weigh in at 3 or 4 o'clock in the afternoon, which is the time of day that most of your people in your audience or your outside participation that they can be there to comfortably come watch the weigh-in. You have a night tournament, say Saturday night, and that tournament, the weigh-in gets over at 7 or 8 o'clock in the morning. A lot of people either A, in bed, or B, going to church, they're not there. So what I see is when you have the day tournament, which is similar to the Bass guys, you have a lot more people at the weigh-in than you do when you have a night tournament, which is what the tournament fishermen want. They want to fish the night tournament, and then the next morning at 7 or 8 o'clock in the morning, you don't have very many people there to watch the weigh-in just because of the time of day. So again, it's kind of a double-edged sword, and I think it really needs to be mixed up where, an organization has some day tournaments, some night tournaments. So, but, overall, and again, this is my opinion, it's very, very important that the weigh-in are held at a time of day that the general public can come and actually watch the weigh-in. Because they're the ones who help, they really help promote the sport and help it grow. And that's where our future anglers come from. That little kid in the audience that they're watching that weigh-in, they're like, man, I want to do that someday. So that's probably maybe not the answer everybody's looking for, but that's kind of my take on it.
Okay. Yeah. The guy I was talking to, he fished with you quite a bit. And he was telling me about some tournaments that would, they would start off at like 7 o'clock at night. And then weigh-in would be, 2 or 3 the next day. Did you enjoy those type of tournaments when you fished those?
I have fished tournaments that lasted, actually longer than that. I enjoy fishing tournaments like that, just because it allows the participants to fish at night, fish during the night and the day both. And I would be all for that. Probably the biggest drawback to it is, just the danger aspect of it, keeping people up for 20 hours straight or whatever the tournament hour is. You're going to get some people that could fall asleep on the way home after the tournament's over, driving and that kind of stuff. So part of the thing the tournament directors have to look for is, it's just liability is being safe on the water, and even after the tournament hours is over. You don't want a bunch of with an accident on the way home. But I like that kind of a tournament format, and I'd be all for that.
Okay, great. All right. We've had a few questions here on the chat, but hopefully Lyle can get around those. I'm going to pass it over to Lyle, and I appreciate the information you've given us, John. That was great stuff, man.
No problem. I appreciate it too. Thank you.
Hey, John, Jason Mitchell wants to know if you're going to try drifting on a river that has fast current, like the Missouri, what would be your speed to drift at when you're bumping?
Okay, what I normally do, and it depends on where you're at on the Missouri River, but the current on the Missouri River will run up to about 5 miles an hour. Maybe not quite that. We've had a lot of high water this year.
Right.
Maybe more in that 3.5 mile an hour range on average. I normally try to slow my boat down to half the current speed. So most of the time that I'm drifting on the Missouri River about 1.5 miles an hour. That's our goal.
Okay. Now, when you're drifting, he also would like to know what is your favorite areas to bump on deep bends in the river, or L dikes, or right down the middle of the channel? Do you have a specific ledges? What do you target?
Well, these fish move around a lot at different times of year. They're in different places. But if I had to just tell you, throw out something that we drift a lot, I'm going to say outside bend. We'll start high on that outside bend, and we'll drift right into channel. So we're drifting the twisted part at the end in the twisted part of that river. So what we typically find is, depends on time of year, things change a lot. But this time of year right now, these fish will be in the middle to lower end of that bend in deep with water. So the top end of that bend has less current than it does down in the middle or where at the tail end of it. But I believe the reason we catch more fish farther down in that bend this time of year, first of all, on a normal year without high water, and if we have a normal year where we're getting a lot of heat, right now our water temperature should be pushing 80 degrees. It's not. It's about 70 because it's been a cooler year, et cetera, et cetera. But we've got really hot water. We have less oxygen in that water. It doesn't hold the oxygen as well. And I think on a normal year, the fish will be in that deeper, slicker part because there's more oxygen in that part of the river. So if I had to pick one spot, I tell you that we fish a lot outside bend from right in the main channel, Walking Bay.
That's great advice. He has one other thing, that if you go to a new stretch of river that you've never been to, what kind of areas would you look for first?
The way we go about a new area is two different things. Again, we'll pull up all of our topo map or get on Google Earth, and we'll zoom in and look at the whole river section as a whole. That's the first step that we do. We will target the bends in the river. Usually the harder the bend, horseshoe bends, and that kind of stuff, it's going to be deep for water and it's going to be swift for water. That's the way we get started. Once we're actually on the water, that's where that's where I pick out the areas that I'm going to look at. Once I'm actually on the water, I'm a big electronics guy. I'll get on the water and we'll spend hours graphing, trying to find fish with our electronics in the areas that we picked out from Google Earth or on the map.
That's excellent information, and it falls right into play. So I've been telling Cindy I've been doing it right, because that's kind of the way we do it, and she tells me sometimes I don't do it right, but we're doing, what we do is basically what you're talking about. So I guess I'm right in line.
Yeah, absolutely.
there's a couple of topics that you and Chuck went over. One in particular that I'd like to touch on for just a second. I'm a big proponent of the 3 fish limit because running tournaments for 9 years, I did never want to turn down someone that wanted to enter a tournament. If they wanted to enter the tournament, I wanted to take their money to have for payout. And a lot of those guys do not have capability of keeping fish alive for 8 hours, 5 quality fish. So we dropped and reduced the tournament limit to 3 for the safety of the fish. Do you think that is a fair assessment, or should the guys that's fishing these tournaments either have to come in and weigh them or have acceptable equipment to do that with?
Well, first of all, I think the tournament angler, in respect to the fish, should have the equipment on board to take care of the fish, number one. I agree with the 3 fish limit, with the exception of one thing. There are big fish fishermen that catch a lot of big fish, and there's fishermen that can catch a lot of fish, not necessarily 3 50-pound, 7-pound fish during the day. They may get a bunch of solid 10 to 30-pound fish. And again, it's just my opinion, to be fair across the board for anglers, if you're going to get as many anglers as you can. My fishing limit allows people that are not necessarily a big fish fisherman, if you will. There's some guys, all they do is target big fish, and they're really good at catching 50 to 70-pound fish. For fish. That guy, if you limit it to 3 fish, has a better opportunity to win a tournament because he may catch 1 70-pound fish. They have a team out here that's really good at catching 20-pound fish. They go catch 3 20-pound fish, and say they caught 5 during the tournament. But they're going to release to them fish. They could have won that tournament. They didn't, because they were forced to earn that fish with. So for me, all tournaments, and it's really hard to be fair. It's hard to be fair for everybody. And again, it is my opinion that it's a fair or even playing field. You do it at 5 fish, so the guy that catches numbers has as good of an opportunity to win the tournament as the guy that's just catching 1 or 2 big fish.
That makes sense.
And again, I'm on both sides of this fence.
I understand.
I like the regulation at 3 fish because it's better for the fish. There's less fish being handled at the weigh-in. The weigh-in goes easier and smoother, but I don't think that that's necessarily the best thing for a lot of anglers. And I'll give you an example. When tournaments first started, actually the first tournament I fished was probably in 1980, early 80s. And even clear through most of the 90s, tournament weigh-in in 50. Okay? And I've seen a lot of guys that were really good at just catching fish. There's a lot of guys that's good at just catching 10 to 30-pound fish. When the weigh-in in fish, they'll beat that big fish fisherman every time. Then I see they go to 7 fish weigh-in. And the guy that just caught fish, he would still win the tournament and would go both ways. Then it went to 5 fish. When it went to 5 fish, the guy that just ran 2 numbers still had a pretty good opportunity to be there. And I think if you go to 3 fish weigh-in, you pick that guy that's just a solid fisherman that just fish fish. I think it kicks him out of his place. My opinion.
I see. Well, and that's what we want is your honest opinion. And you know, everybody's not going to agree with what I say or what you say, but you know, it's an honest opinion, and that's all anybody can ask for. I've got a couple of questions from chat, but I want to get into one of them actually goes along with something that I have on my list, but there's a couple of things that I want to touch on before I get to those chat questions. When you was talking about oxygen in your live well, I've been using oxygen for a long time. I've never had an issue with a fish when we had oxygen in our live well. Now, I personally don't believe that it's necessary to have medical oxygen on these fish. Some people do. What's your take on that?
So we do not run medical oxygen. We just run regular oxygen unless it's missing, but that's not why we're doing it. It's because of budget. It's because I've never had a problem with just running regular oxygen on these fish. Now, I understand if you crank the oxygen up really high in your tank, you can do what's called burning your fish.
Right.
Make them red skin and it's bad for them because it's just too much. So really all we do is we're just cracking that oxygen. Got a regulator. We're just running it very low on these fish, and we have never had a problem running regular oxygen.
Right. My regulator set on the lowest setting that it'll do. And like I say, I've never had an issue when we run oxygen on fish. And in cold weather, of course, I don't believe it's as necessary as when it gets hot, but we've never turned it up and never lost a fish. Never had one that even slightly you thought there was something wrong with it. Oxygen is a wonderful thing. And as time goes along and people gain the experience, I think they'll learn that to be successful and to have big fish and keep them alive, that is a necessity in their live wells.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and I think the guys that fish a lot that are true tournament anglers, they'll see that it's something that they need to do. I mean, this board has a long way to go. I've seen it come in long ways over the years, and I don't want to say that it needs the regulation that the BASS guys have to go through. Because I hear all the time, well, somebody floats faster in my boat, and they got, a longer range, and they got a bigger fuel tank, and all that stuff. I mean, catfishing is a different sport.
It is.
The tournament director, I mean, if you really want it to be fair, you all got to be fishing the same bait. You got to be fishing out of the same boat. We have to be fishing with the same amount of fuel on board. I mean, there's all kinds of regulations that could be in effect to make it a more level playing field for everybody.
Yeah.
We're not ready for it.
No.
We're divided over what's the best mode, what's the best this, what's the best that. And it would kill the sport if we was all forced to fish out of the same boat, use the same bait, et cetera, et cetera.
I agree. I agree 100%. The guys in chat are really lighting us up about bait. Brad Bex would like to know what kind of bait that you use, live or cut bait.
I'm a cut bait person, mainly because I started blue cat. And don't get me wrong, I've caught a lot of big flatheads in my life. That's what we started on, and a lot of people don't know that. And my tournament partner and I, we caught a lot of big flatheads. And I've used a lot of live bait on blue cats, and I've caught a lot of blue cats on live bait. But what I 99% of the time fish now is cut bait for several different reasons. A, it's easier to feed. You don't have to try to keep live bait on board. And B, an actual good cut bait puts more stench in the water when you cut it. It's bleeding, you're getting, the fat being released, the blood being released, et cetera, and that helps draw in the blue. But I'm going to tell you something that is probably going to light everybody up a little bit. I fish skipjack, I fish shad, I fish cut carp, I fish cut buffalo, I fish quillback, we fish moon eyes, we fish goldeye, we fish cut goldfish, we fish cut perch. And I'll tell you right now, the number one factor in catching fish is not the bait. The number one factor is finding the fish and putting the bait on it. And I'm going to tell you right now, straight up, if you're on a group of fish and they're in a feeding mode, you will eat that carp, be it jumping carp or regular carp, or cut buffalo, or skid cat, being frozen or fresh, just as well. The number one thing you have to do is find that group of active fish and put your bait to it. So even.
I agree.
In my opinion, the bait is secondary compared to finding that group of fish that want to eat.
I agree. I think if they're hungry, they'll take about anything that floats down to them. And if they're not hungry, the only time you get them to bite is if you just aggravate them enough with putting it in front of their face that they'll just go ahead and bite it just to get rid of it.
Absolutely. I mean, the wonder about having a live well on board, I mean, we'll take, even when we're out fun fishing, we'll take a lot of fish because I want to see what they're eating. Because if you look at your live well at the end of the tournament day, or we go fishing there, they almost always regurgitate what they can eat.
That's right.
There'll be everything you can imagine will be in there. We found birds in there. We found all kinds of fish. I mean, I found, clams. I took one of the three fishers biologists with me last year. The fish that was called a limit of blues that day, they're giving us something to think. We're going to do it. If you really want to know, there's a deer tongue in there. There's deer parts. There's deer hair. They will eat almost anything that they find. You got to put the bait in.
That's exactly right. Exactly right. Great information there, guys. Chad Wall would like to know what kind of diffuser you're using for your oxygen system.
Okay. There's several different ones on the market. The one you commonly see is just a stone. And they make the bigger stones that's 4 or 5 inches long and 3 inches tall. So they're pretty big stones. And they work really well. What I actually use, I'm ordering my regulator, my tank, out of a company out of Texas called Boyd, B-O-Y-D-S. Boyd something. That name I'm losing right now. But the actual diffuser I use is a garden hose that it's like a sprinkler. When you turn it on, it lets water seep out all over the ground. So I've got a ring that's a ring about the size of a big saucer, small dinner plate or a big saucer. And it's made out of this stuff. It's got some lead in it that holds it down to the bottom. And when an oxygen goes in there in that ring, it's just thousands of little honey bubbles coming out around in that ring.
That's excellent. Excellent. Great information, John. Thank you so much for sharing that with us. I watched a video of you a few years ago where you was doing an interview with a gentleman and you was talking about adding blood or soaking your bait in blood, and I never did really find out how that panned out for you. Can you tell us about that experiment?
Well, we've done a lot of different things over the years, and I don't know if I'm specifically remembering the one that you're talking about, but we started off years ago, and this is where I really learned how to walk bait. We started out walking bait, a walk with chicken blood, which we got and we worked through different processes, and we're just walking down these small rivers, and then we went to beef blood, and I used hog blood, beef blood, chicken blood. I've used about every blood on the market. A lot of it gets hard to get now because of all the regulation and stuff anymore due to health and et cetera. But if we do get extra blood like that, we will soak a lot of our bait in it. But one of the things that I soak my bait in primarily now is some of these fishing practices. So I own a company called Ribbon Lift where we sell rods and hooks and different kinds of bait. And one of the things that we have on the market is years ago, one of the things we would use was blood. We cut our bait with blood. And kind of moved on a little bit to the percent trail. The oil actually sticks to the bait better than what blood will.
Okay. Okay. Great. Great. I knew that you had owned Rip and Lips Tackle, and that's a great venue for you. I'm glad to see you in the industry for sales and retail. Guys can contact your company and get anything you want. Get all their stuff that you offer anytime they want. Just by you, I'm sure you have a website, and we'll go through that here in just a little bit. But my perspective of this is, and I'm not picking names or naming anybody out or any particular order or name, but we need the Rip and Lips products and the John Jamisons and the Dave Ashbys, and we need Adam at Tombstone. We need all these companies that are involved in our sport to help it grow. Would you agree with that?
Oh yeah, absolutely. The sport's been very divided. As any sport is, when it's new and it's in the early stages of growth. But we need team catfish. We need lister seekers. We need Rip and Lips. We need, bottom dwellers. We need in-snow tackle. We need everybody out there. This is a huge market. And I'll be the first guy to say the guy I'm targeting, I am not targeting the tournament angler. The tournament angler is a very, very, very small percentage. And I mean 1 or 2% of the catfish anglers in the United States or the world. I target the guys that just go fishing every day that fish off the back. My hooks are tournament grade hooks. We got products that do work well for the tournament guy. But, when I'm making rods, when I'm making decisions, all of our grippers, I can't sell $200 rods to the average guy. We're basically in all the big box stores now, the fellas that have got products in some of the Walmart stores and Academy and Shield. We're nationwide, so to go. And the guy that buys the product is the guy that finds the $49.99 problem.
Mm-hmm.
Not the tournament.
I can see that, and I know a lot of the tournament guys also use your stuff, so that's a double hit for you, and it's good for the industry. It's good for them guys. It's good for the average Joe that goes out here on Sunday afternoon and wants to go fishing. He doesn't have to buy a $150 or $200 rod to go. He can get a quality product and go on and go fishing.
Yep.
Jason has another. I'm sorry.
I said absolutely. I agree.
Jason has another question about drifting. How many times do you turn around and go back through an area once you've been through it and nothing happened?
Yeah, I've got certain areas that we've drifted for years. That we may, I've got one bank that's a half mile long that we'll drift over and over and over and over and over. Because I know, fish are kind of like deer and turkey. You watch deer and turkey, they're little, to me, your big game animals are either the pattern and what catfish are. First of all, you can see them and you can see when they're moving. But if you watch that deer and turkey, they'll have specific times of the day that they go to feed. Most of the time in the morning or in the evening right before dark. Easy the pattern. You can see them. These blue cats are the same way. If you have a stretch of water that you're taking fish on, and I've got banks that I know at some point during the day, in an 8-hour period, that bank is going to light up and then the fish are going to bite on that tank. Part of this is just experience. So you got to make it caught a lot of fish on 2 or 3 times that you don't get bit. You got confidence that he's going to be there, he's going to be the later. By all means, keep drifting and keep confident because sometimes, I'll give you an we had a tournament the other day. We finished third at the tournament. And we should have been first, but I got to this thing that I know very well. And I got there about 10 minutes before dark. He took 2 17s and blue in the boat in less than 10 minutes. The first 10 minutes of the tournament. You fish that off of on me at dark. But that bank, I knew the fish was going to be there. I knew they was going to bite before dark. And we had 2 other fish in that 10-minute period that came off that would be the 20 that would have been in the bird. But I knew what the fish was doing and when they was going to bite. And so these things, you know, a lot of times we'll drift that same thing over and over and over because, you know, everybody knows if it's a good day, you're going to get bit in the morning. You usually get bit right before dark, a little bit after dark. But if you bump a lot, almost always at some point in the afternoon, 1 to 2 o'clock in the middle of the day, middle of the afternoon, that thing will wide up again. You may not catch 26, you may catch 3 or 4 or 5, but at some point during the day, it'll be back.
I agree. John, there's one more question that I have personally for you, and I think that this will about cover everything that I had. There is a lot of tournament series operating at present time, more than we've ever had in catfishing before. I have for years been a proponent of all the guys getting together everywhere nationwide and making one unified set of rules. I think that would benefit the sport. I think it would benefit all the tournament series. I think it would benefit the sponsors and everyone involved. And I would just like your opinion on what you think about that.
So I agree with that for the most part. The problem is getting everybody to agree on the same thing. It makes it much easier for the tournament angler to have a uniform set of rules. That way, hopefully you don't have to go to all the pre-tournament meetings and all of that stuff where it's pretty redundant during places go. You know, so I'm a big proponent of standard set of rules. If it's not broken, don't try to fix it. The problem is, in my opinion, is trying to get everybody to agree on one set of rules. I think that would be very hard, but I would like to see that.
I would too. I actually tried just to get 4 or 5 organizations together so we could all pick a weekend a month to have tournaments, so everybody that wanted to fish tournaments, they could pick out or fish all of them or any part of them that they wanted. And I couldn't even get four groups to get together to pick out a weekend. So it's very hard. I really do think that that's something that these tournament directors should strive for. There needs to be an organization for tournament directors to get together and discuss rules and try to make something together. And Heath Malone sent me a message. It's a 3 fish, and I agree with that. A lot of people do not. But if you could get a ruling where everybody decided, well, we're not going to do trailering, or we are going to do trailering, and we're going to use 6 rods, no more, no less, whatever the case may be, and make it a unified set of rules, and go nationwide with that, or area wide. If it won't work for what the guys out on the East Coast, then have a set that is as close as you can make them for those guys, and the Midwest guys have a set. But if everybody was playing on the same field, I think you'd see a lot more participation, because guys could fish over with Brad in Kansas City, and they could come over and fish with Alex over on our side of the state, or they could go up and fish with Tom and Timmy up in Peoria, or Springfield, Illinois. If these things was all together and the rules was the same, I think it would make it a lot simpler for the boys that are trying to fish the tournaments.
Yeah, it would definitely make it simpler for them, but it goes back to how many fish you have. If you're on a channel cat fishery, you need to be able to weigh in more than 3 fish. Oh,
yeah, and we've adjusted that. We went from the 3 fish limit specifically channel cat water to 5. But there's got to be some give and take on some of that stuff. And for years, I wouldn't. 3 fish was all I would do. And Alex and I talked about that, and he wanted to go with it. And it's a great thing, because Some areas that we go to, you'll catch 5 channel cats, and they'll all be over 10 pounds. Other areas you go to, there'll be channel cats. You won't never catch a 10-pound channel cat.
Right, exactly. Yeah, I'd like to see uniform regulation if we could get it. If we could get it in effect, there's just so much. You know, the guys that like the trailers, the guys that don't. I mean, there's an organization that's very, very far apart.
Yeah, I think you're right. A lot of it does have to do with trailering, and I'm not a proponent of that, and I know a lot of guys are, and you know, that's great if they like it, but you know, it is what it is, and we'll make best do. Maybe someday we can put this together. That'd be awesome.
You know, and I think it's possible. What we need is, you know, in all sports, and it's maybe well after my lifetime is over, that somebody going forward has a prominent tournament in the United States. Be it Cabela's or Bass Pro Shop or Dead City Catfish or somebody over your way. Yeah. Because this is what always happens in all business. Somebody will take this sport to the next level. Once that person is, or that organization is the dominant tournament organization to fish, he's got this, whoever it is, when he's got this set of rules, regulations in place, that's when you'll see the smaller organizations follow suit to that time. We do not have a clear leader in this field, and that's still up for grabs. It may take another 25 years for that. But at some point, somebody's going to be like BASF. And I think we'll see all the clubs, the smaller organizations, follow their lead and adopt a lot of their rules because they're successful. And that's when you'll see more of a uniform playing field.
I agree with you 100%. John, we appreciate your time so much. We're going to, do you have anything else for him, Chuck?
Yeah, I've got one more thing. I've seen you and, you know, not many guys in the catfishing industry, but a lot of the walleye guys are running the, you know, 18, 19, and 20-foot tiller-handled V-hull boats. What kind of advantage do you see by running a tiller-handled boat, John?
Very clearly and very distinctly an advantage in it. That's part of the reason I'm on One's Procast is because they offer a big tiller. I'm running basically a 21-foot boat with 240 tillers. It's all power steering, no pull. I can turn that motor running 55 miles an hour with one finger. It'll stay wherever you leave it. The main reason that I'm running just goes back to the way that I fish. My number one way that I fish and my passion, the way I like to fish is I like to do a control through it. I like to talk. And to talk the Missouri River or the Mississippi River all day in hot current on an outside band with the trolling motor, not going to happen. You're going to run out of power. Period. I very rarely anymore in hot water ever drop my trolling motor. My tiller handle, I have a feature built right into the handle where I can a plus mark and a minus mark. I can regulate the RPMs on my motor. I drop that motor in. I slow that prop down where it's barely turning. But my motor is essentially my trolling motor. My big motor is my trolling motor on these big rivers. I don't run out of battery. I can fish all day long. Period.
Awesome.
Great. And also, do you see having a lot more room getting around the boat without consoles and all that stuff, and being able to set your electronics up where that's a lot more efficient for you?
Yeah, my electronics are right beside me within reach, and I like the open boat concept. There's nothing in the way. You know, we filmed quite a few TV shows. There's much easier to film out of. You know, and as always, there's always downsides to everything. You know, if it's raining or sleeting or snowing, an open boat concept is a pain in the neck. You know, I want that windshield to get behind now.
Yeah.
For most of the days, most of the time I want that tiller handle. The other thing that happens too. If you got a boat with a big windshield, you know, like Missouri, the Mississippi River, it primarily runs north and south, primarily. We get a lot of south wind during the summer, and that's when we're bumping. I've seen days on the Mississippi River when you're trying to drift into the wind and you've got a full windshield, it'll stop that boat dead. You'll even blow it upriver. And the windshield just acts as a big barrier for even drifting on a lake. Once you get rid of that windshield in that boat, your boat immediately becomes much easier to control. It's easier to stay on a waypoint if you don't have something way up in the air catching wind. It's just easier. But again, if you got a family, you know, if you're using this boat for boating and taking the wife out and that kind of stuff, an open boat concept is probably not for you. But for the way that I did what I do, I will never go back to a windshield until I get so old that I've got to hide behind something. And that keeps coming rapidly, I'm afraid.
Just buy some better freight bills, huh?
There you go.
All right, John. It was great having you on. I hope we can have you on again. And I'm gonna turn you back over to Lyle and let him close you out. And I appreciate all the tips you've given us, and everybody appreciates it. You know, the more of these guys, the more I learn, the more everybody learns and shares, the further we're going to go with everything.
You're very welcome.
Well, John, you know, I can't thank you enough for you being on the show and sharing tips and trade secrets and stuff with us. I know everybody that watches the show appreciates it. They all know who you are. They all know your success stories. And it's very important that guys like you and some of our other guests here, Larry Muse and Jeff Dodd and the Massengill brothers, and Carl Morris was on a couple of weeks ago. I mean, we've had some really good guys, and you guys sharing this information with not only the novice fishermen, but experienced guys. I've picked up a bunch of stuff, you know, from listening to you guys. So I can't thank you enough for everything you do. And if you have someone or something that you would like to promote or sponsors that you'd like to talk about, I'll give you some time here to go through whatever it is that you need to talk about.
Well, I appreciate that opportunity, and I won't take up a lot of time on that. But the main one is my personal fishing company. It's called Rip and Lift, and you can get online, ripandlift.net, and see all of our products there. And again, we're in almost every major box store in the United States, and a lot of the mom-and-pop stores all over. So take an opportunity, take a look at what we have to offer there. I'd appreciate that very much. I can't get off the phone without saying thank you to Marco and to Mercury, Marine, and Cabela's, and Cabela's King Cat, and Dakota, and Hummingbird. And I got a very important that had a lot of, you know, the rod shop in the city. You know, we've got our own line of pump and rod, that kind of stuff. It's very fortunate with the sponsors that I have. And, you know, maybe one last thing, you guys have been in the tournament world. I have people ask me all the time, how do you get sponsored? I'll say something really quickly. You have a product that you really believe in, really like it. That's the guy that you go after for that sponsorship. Don't take a sponsorship to anybody if you don't believe in that product because you can't promote it the way that it needs to be promoted. So, and that all lead you to it. And I appreciate the opportunity to be on the show.
Well, John, again, thank you so much, and I'm sure that if you would agree to come on the show, we would love to have you at a future date and get you back on here and talk about some more stuff, because I know we really didn't get involved with Rip and Lip stuff, and I know a lot of people would like to know about that. So if you're interested, we'd love to have you on a future date.
Yep, not a problem. Just give me a call, and I'll be more than willing to get on.
Thank you so much. Ladies and gentlemen, John Jamison. Thanks, John.
All right. Good show.
Well, Chuck, do you have any closing statements for this evening?
No, I'm good for tonight.
You've been good doing that for here lately, quite a bit.
Not a whole lot of tournaments going on. There was one last week that I missed. And some really good guys. TNA catfishing. Um, they came out with 5 good flatheads up in Rome, Georgia, and really put a whooping on some people. And that was I was wanting to go up there so bad and get with them guys and hang out, do a little bit of fishing, but it just didn't work out for me. So I don't really have anything going on to the 19th of this month when I go up to Lake Gunnersville for the Cabela's tournament. So I just got a couple of weeks to get my stuff together for it and hopefully do some pre-fishing and start saving some money to go to Owensboro.
I think we're all counting on that. I sent Aaron a couple messages that we need to get him on the show and so he can go through all the stuff if anything has changed or what hasn't, and let us know about all the people that's entered the tournament and everything. I know he's a very busy guy, but if we could get Aaron Wheatley to come on here again and help us clarify everything, I think it'd be a great deal. The only thing that I really have, Twisted Cat Outdoors will be having their year-end tournament in Grafton, Illinois, September the 12th. It ought to be a great event. We've had some really, really good tournaments this year, and while we're on that, about 10 years ago, I started Twisted Cat Outdoors with the help of J.D. Richardson and Chris Cordia and Keith Atkins, great friends of mine. Keith and I used to fish together a lot, and it got to the point where we was doing so much tournament work we didn't get to fish, and we didn't get to do this, and we didn't get to do that. And I found Alex Nagy, and Alex and his wife Elizabeth have took this year to decide if they would like to run catfishing tournaments. They've done an outstanding job. They brought Yeti into it. They brought Dave's Marine and Sea Arc and different companies involved with the tournament series, and I can't thank them enough. And I'm going to let the world know right now that they have done the job that I knew that they could. They enjoy doing it, and people think this industry is all about money. I have given Twisted Cat Outdoors Tournament Series to Alex and Elizabeth. I had $0 for it. I didn't want anything. All I ever wanted was for someone to take it and promote it and do with it as it should. I believe I found the right people for that, and that we're going to pass the torch on and let the young guys take it and do with it as they will. And I know Alex and Elizabeth will do a wonderful job as they've had this year. If that's it for you, Chuck, I think I've had all I know tonight, and we'll close her out. Thanks, everybody, for watching Catfish Weekly.